video 3, sorry. I was like, all right, cool, like this is it. You know, just keep welcoming them. And I couldn't feel the head. I could feel pressure. I could definitely feel some pressure. So I knew she was obviously descending. And I knew I must have been about 9 centimeters dilated, something around there. So I transitioned into the water. You know, everyone helped me get in there because I was feeling pretty like heavy, very bottom heavy. My girl, do you want to just be in mummy's arms over here? Yeah, you want to be over here? Oh, beauty girl. Here, I'll put you on the other side. Man, she is an avid feeder. Like, even more so than the boys were. Okay, baby, hang on. Hang on. Hang on. There we go. No, that's your hand. There we go. Yeah, so they moved me over into the bath. And it felt so good just to be weightless, and I was floating on my tummy, and it just felt amazing. And then I had about 6 or 7 really super strong contractions in the bath, and I was like, whoa, it's go time. Any minute I'm gonna get the urge to push. And then I had another 2 or 3. Oh, what, Bodhi? Oh, amazing. Grandma's here. Sorry. Grandma brought her bread, my stepmom. Yeah, so I got into the bath, and I just thought I would be transitioning into pushing at this point. And I kept having stronger and stronger contractions. And I was like, what is going on? Why am I not pushing right now? And so then Julie was like, can you feel the head? So I felt up there, and I could feel what felt like little pursed lips. And right behind the lips, like your teeth, I could feel her head. And that was this far away. And I said to her, I was like, I can feel her head, but there's, I think, cervix still in the way. And she was like, okay, what does it feel like? I was like, oh, it feels a bit, it could maybe be a bit swollen. And she was like, all right, let's just see what happens with the next contractions. Whew, so I went through the next contractions, and then felt again, and nothing. Still could just feel the cervix and the head right behind the cervix. And I said to her, there's still, I don't know what's going on. So then she let me go another maybe 10 minutes just to see what was happening. And again, like stronger and stronger and stronger, but I didn't feel like I was progressing. So I was like, I don't know why it's not coming down. And little did I know, or I guess I sort of realized at the time, was I had a cervical lip, which is my friend Sarah experienced that in her first labor with her midwife. And so I knew what it meant, and I knew it meant that Julie is going to have to hold back my cervix while I push to get her head through that final piece. And so she was like, all right, let's go back on the toilet. So we went back on the toilet, and Mark came in with me, and that was the most intense part of, not all of my labors, but really intense. It was only 2 contractions I had like that. But so she held it back, and she had me push so that the head could come down through the cervical lip. So apparently your cervix can get swollen during labor. And even though I should have been at the pushing stage at that point, my cervix had just swollen a little bit, and she couldn't quite descend. She couldn't figure out how to get through. So Julie held it back, and I had 2 contractions like that. And on the second one, I felt the baby's head come down, and oh my God, it was the best feeling in the world. I was so elated because I had spent 40 to 45 minutes stuck in this at this one point, and it felt really frustrating, and I started to get deflated, and I had been so high and elated and was really handling the contractions well until that point. And that's when I just started having those doubtful thoughts come in. Am I ever going to be able to do this? Like, is she ever coming out? How will I get through this? Why is she stuck? Is there something wrong with her? But continuously, obviously, Julie was checking her heartbeat to make sure that she was handling it okay. And she was. And as soon as Julie did that and the baby's head came down, I knew she was coming out any second. So I basically got carried from the toilet to the bath to deliver, because it just felt like she was coming out, and I was like, I can't even get over there. So Mark's like lifting me up, and Julie's helping me over to the bath. I get in the bath and I feel her head come right down, and then I could feel it. Her head was like right here, like a centimeter away, and she was like, that's it, just few little grunts. Yeah, don't, resist the urge to push. And I did a few little, just really tiny pushes, and the rest of it I used breath and to bring her out. And I went between breath, and that kind of just brought the head further and further until I was, she was crowning. And at this point is when I know a lot of women think they just have to push, and that's when you can cause tearing. So, and that's what happened the first time round in Bodhi's birth. Is I was crowning, and I remember the nurses in the room at the hospital at Cedars where I delivered Bodhi, they were like, push! And I pushed and I tore, of course. But this time round, I really know how to push, and I know how not to push. And the main thing was not really pushing, just doing a few little tiny pushes and using breath work to bring her out. So I was doing the horse slips, as well as the panting, and I just did the two of them, and it brought her head out, and she was like, all right, two little grunts, and then the head came out. And I could see her head. I was in an all fours position in the water, and I could see her head, and I knew that it was just one more little grunt, a little breathe out, and she'd be out. And I did it, and I could see her eyes were open, and I pulled her to the surface, and she was just looking up at me. It was so surreal and so beautiful, and I just could not believe it. It was the most amazing feeling, and everyone just started laughing and crying, and and Bodhi had been brought to the tub, and Forrest woke up about 30 minutes earlier and was just up and watching, and I just brought her out of the water and looked at her and sat back and just laughed and cried. And there's so many photos of me just like looking at every member around me in the room, and just like, I can't believe it. And I was saying, I did it. And then just, locking eyes with Bodhi and Forrest and saying, you have a sister, this is your sister. And Mark was crying and laughing, and just, it was, oh my gosh, the happiest moment ever. And just to have the boys with us, and Bodhi was so excited, and people were laughing. My mum was laughing and crying, and my mum was so beautiful. I was really worried about her worried face during the labour, but I didn't even notice it. She just sort of sat back in the background, and she was really beautiful and so loving and supportive. So it was just the most sensational experience ever. I can't even tell you how blissed out I was. It just, all the endorphins are peaking, and it's just, it was the best day of my life. It really was. And same with my other births, obviously. But there was something special about all of them being together here. The boys with us, and Mark, and my best friends, and my mum, and it was just amazing. And now I've got to say, my highlights of the birth my number one highlight was Bodhi. Bodhi was I could cry thinking about it. He was the most beautiful and loving and mature little boy, and he would come over to me in the throes of labor when I was in that moment of having self-doubt, and he would lightly touch my arm and say, "Mummy, you're doing a really good job." And he would do this light touch massage on me. He had these big surgical gloves on, and he would come and give me water, and he would constantly be bringing water with a straw and having me sip it. He fed me ice cubes. He stroked my hair. He held my hand. There's images of my hand over the bath, and I'm just like in that place where I had the cervical lip, and his little hand is on top of mine, just stroking me and touching me and telling me he loved me. And Cassandra, who was, the point person for the boys, said that he'd be in conversation with her about, "Oh, hang on a second, I just got to go help Mummy. I'll be right back." And he'll go and do something. He'd come back to Cassandra and say, "Oh, I just promised Mummy I would help her." And what a divine little being. I could, and everyone said it across the board, my midwife, my birth team, Gemma, everyone was just saying Bodhi was amazing. He's so otherworldly, Bodhi, and he's just this wise old soul, and to so selflessly give me that nurturing, and he's my little boy. And he just wanted to be really involved, and actually, so he cut the cord, and that was his big role, and he knew he got to cut the cord, and he was really excited about doing it. And when I was in the moment in the bath where I was having all those strong contractions, but I wasn't progressing because of the cervical lip, he actually did the funniest thing, and this was all of our favorite moment, I think, just in terms of how funny it was. He walked over and he had these huge big blue surgical gloves on. He was like, "I'm ready to cut the cord." And I was nowhere near pushing yet, and he had found these scissors, random scissors in the room. Not even the scissors that you'd use to cut a cord. And he had the scissors, and he was coming at me with the scissors like, "I'm gonna cut the cord now." We all started laughing, including me. And I was like, "Buddy, we're not quite there yet." And then Julie's like, "They're also not the scissors we're going to use. We're going to use some blunter scissors than that." Anyway, hilarious. But he was just so beautiful. And, we were having guesses all night between all of us which day she'd be born on, because, labor started around 7-ish or 7:30. And, about 7:30 labor started. And she was born at 11:30 p.m. Friday night on April the 12th. And so we were like, is it going to be the 13th? Is it going to be the 12th? Now, if I hadn't have had the cervical lip, because that added like another 40 minutes until we figured out how to, move past that, it obviously would have been earlier. But when that was happening, I was like, oh, it's definitely going to be the 13th. There's no way I'm giving birth before then. But yeah, it was the 12th, and she came out perfect. The cord was really short. Actually, I couldn't quite get her up to my breast. So she was close to my breast. Oh, she was actually on my chest, yes. But the cord was really tight. And then, suddenly there was some blood in the water, and that's very normal for after you give birth. You bleed a little, but in the water it makes it look more. And so Julie's like, "Okay, cool, time to get out of the bath." And I could see Mark's worried face. He's the one that gets the most worried of everyone. And he was like, "All right, quick, let's get out." Got me on the bed, but sure enough, I was totally fine, and she was just beautiful and perfect, and she still is. And I'm just on cloud 9, and I cannot believe tomorrow that will be a week ago. All right, next video just to wrap it up, and then I'll get into postpartum.